I want to hear about Comic-Con.
Hey everybody, welcome to GeekyKOOL presents Geeky Cinephiles. We've got my good friend Joe here with me. I am Larry the Professor. We're going to come to you and talk about one of our favorite comedies out there, an oldie but a goodie. We're talking Airplane.
Yep. I don't know if I was more excited to talk about any movie than I was about this one.
Good.
I went back through it. I obviously I've seen it 100 times, but I went back through and watched it again. And it feels like you catch something every single time.
It does, doesn't it? Yes, I agree.
Yeah.
There's just so many sight gags in that movie, so much to it. I did show it to my son for the first time a couple weeks ago, and before we decided we were going to do this one, I showed it to him because he was asking to see it, which is always a good thing.
Yeah.
But, he actually had a little free time. I think it was during his spring break, to where I wasn't after him for all of his homework, but he was like, "Dad, can we watch this?" And I'm like, "Yes, we can watch it." Because at one point I told him I wasn't quite old enough for it, because there is a gratuitous nude scene in this PG movie. And it's all of 2 seconds. I mean, but still it's there, which is really funny when you look at what PG meant. Now it would be R-rated, because
it was rated PG.
PG, yeah, it's PG.
Wow.
It was from 1980. It was before the PG-13 ratings, because it probably would have got a PG-13, but it was prior to PG-13 ratings, and that was allowed. So
yeah. It was definitely a good part of the movie.
So tell me, Joe, what, going back and rewatching it, was it as good as you remember? Did you have fun watching it? Tell me what you're thinking.
Oh yeah, both. Had fun. Was awesome. I mean, it's one of the best comedies of all time, and it's funny that it's a bit of a dry sense of humor.
Yeah.
But there's also literal, kind of vaudevillian humor.
Very much so, yeah.
How soon can you land this plane? I can't tell. You could tell me, I'm a doctor. No, I mean, I don't know. Can't you take a guess? Not for another 2 hours. You can't take a guess for another 2 hours? Just to where what is actually said is what's actually being answered. Yeah.
Right.
It's funny that way.
We've got to get this man to the hospital. Hospital? What is it? Well, it's a big building you keep sick people in, but that's not important right now.
I love it.
Leslie Nelson as the doctor, phenomenal, just absolutely phenomenal in that role. That really kind of set Leslie Nelson on that path to where he did the spoofs, the Naked Gun movies, and of course, the Police Squad was the precursor to that. But he did all the Dracula Dead, Loving It, all that. So that kind of it actually, the funny thing was, he was a very serious actor.
Yeah.
Up until this point, he did a little bit of comedy, but not like this. But from Airplane on, he was known for his gags and his sight gags, his almost Three Stooges-esque movies.
Yeah.
So
yeah. It's all about timing too. He's great with timing. He doesn't look like it, but he is.
Very good with timing. I agree.
So on that note, Lloyd Bridges was actually in it.
Lloyd Bridges is great there.
And
wrong to stop sniffing glue.
Yeah. And so his kids convinced him to do it because he was a serious actor too.
Right.
Jeff and probably Bo but he got annoyed a couple years later because it seemed like that's all people knew him for.
which is
And
crazy because he's a
yeah,
great actor. But
yeah. And his kids were like, "No, that's great. My friends love it. That's what you should go for." So,
most definitely.
and he did a bunch. He did, Mafia and Hot Shots.
Yes, he did. Yeah,
Yeah,
Hot Shots is great with that.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
The
And
go ahead.
no, I was going to say, like you said, Leslie Nielsen and Lloyd Bridges were serious actors.
Mhm.
That's what they were looking for. The directors wanted serious actors because they thought it played better. If you just act like you're acting in this movie, you're not paying attention to dumb things that are happening.
Most definitely. Robert Stack was also in the movie.
Yeah.
Very serious actor. Peter Graves, who is known for Mission Impossible series and many other things. So you do have a lot of serious actors. Barbara Billingsley is in this movie, which we'll talk about her role here in a moment. But
Yeah.
from the mother from Leave It to Beaver.
Okay.
And,
Okay. Yeah.
yeah. Which was known for being a pretty serious actress. Robert Hayes, who was the main star of the movie, had been in several things, but when it comes down to it, people know him for Airplane, and that really is the big thing that he's known for.
Yep.
He was in like Cat's Eye, which is a Stephen King's movie,
Yeah.
and several other things. But yeah, it's interesting. He kind of found his niche also. Yeah.
They probably made more money that way too. I mean, I'm sure they could demand more of a contract after these movies hit big.
Oh yeah, right.
Did you know Ted Stryker was written for David Letterman?
Did not know that. Now that is
Yeah,
funny.
yeah.
It's really funny the people that are originally cast or who they write things for, and then it's somebody else. You just can't imagine that other person. David Letterman, I would have a hard time seeing that, especially a little gap in his teeth. And
yeah.
But David Letterman was kind of hitting his heyday at that point. I can't remember when the David Letterman show came on because it was after Carson's Tonight Show.
Yeah.
But I don't remember what year that started. It had to be around that same time. But I know he was a stand-up comedian. So
right
before he got into the late night gig.
Could you imagine if he would have gotten Airplane? I don't. It might be a terrible movie.
It might be. I'm sure it's like I don't know how that fits there.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so what I've noticed about these movies, it's you take Hot Shots, Naked Gun, Airplane, the kind of one that started it, is there's several references to modern day society.
Yes, there are. Yep.
And those are a few things in 1980 that I wasn't aware of, so shed some of, or if you can, shed some light on me. The Saturday Night Fever is referenced.
It is. Yep.
But remember the Fighting Girl Scouts?
Yeah.
Do you know what that was in relation to? What that was supposed to mean?
I don't
know. Yeah. And they're kissing on a beach. I think that was
what's that movie with the surf that comes over the top of them?
Is that Somewhere in Time?
No, it's a famous oh
yeah, I know.
I'll come up with that here in just a moment.
Okay, yeah. But yeah, there's commercial references, which now, especially we wouldn't know commercials from back then. But yeah, it's interesting that's the formula. They use it every time, I guess.
Right.
I guess to get you.
That's true.
Did you so I'll share some facts with you here.
Okay.
Made 1980, which obviously we know.
Right.
You probably know several of these, but I found them interesting. $171 million is what it made on a budget of almost $4 million.
And at that time, that was one of the biggest grossing movies ever.
Was it really?
That was you hit over $150 million and you just hit the jackpot. It's like It's like having a movie that's at $1 billion nowadays. Yeah, that was
Wow.
it was a crazy amount of money for that movie to make. But yeah, only on 4 million, and you have those big stars that you're having to pay.
Yeah.
So that's the really interesting stuff, right?
Yeah. Okay, it ranked 6th on Bravo's 100 funniest movies of all time, and in the United Kingdom, it was second as the greatest comedy of all time, only to Monty Python's Life of Brian. So
Really,
some pretty good categories.
There you go. Interestingly, I put Life of Brian down below Holy Grail, but that's just my preference. So
yeah, me too.
The movie you were thinking of is Here to Eternity with the scene on the beach. Here to Eternity, yeah.
Somewhere in Time, Here to Eternity, Prince of Tides,
Yeah. All right, what else we got?
Okay, so the famous quote. It feels like you know what the famous quote is, right? From basically when everybody says the movie Airplane. So do it in your best Leslie Nielsen voice, Larry.
Yes, I am serious, and don't call me Shirley.
So that was also voted a 79th on the top 100 movie quotes of all time.
It's a great movie quote.
Yeah.
If you say that to somebody and they've seen Airplane, they know what you're talking about.
Yep.
If you say it to somebody who has not seen Airplane, they're clueless. They're just like, what?
Yeah.
I didn't call you Shirley.
Oh, it's so good.
Yeah.
What do you think? What's your
I still love this movie, and there are things that you pick up, little just quirky, funny things. You're like, oh, okay. I kind of forgot about that, or it's just one of those weird things that I love. I love that we're sitting in a World War II fighter thing, but it's modern day. So he's like a fighter pilot from World War II. Everything's set up like that. It confused my son. He's like, was this movie set in World War II? I'm like, no. Like, well, why is that scene? I'm like, because it's funny that they're doing a flashback instead of flashing back to Vietnam or whatever since it's 1980. You're flashing back to World War II, which was decades before. So you've got that. You've got the sight gag, and I don't know if you got this one. There's actually, I call it a sight gag, but it's more of a audio gag. When the plane starts up, you notice the plane is fully a jet plane. You got 2 jet engines going, but the sound is prop engines.
Oh, yeah, it is.
You're like, what?
Good catch. I know. Yeah, never thought about that.
Yeah, so you have that.
You think that was to just convey motion flying? I mean,
no, I think that was done to see who would catch the humor of putting in a because especially in 1980, it wasn't uncommon to still have airplanes out there that were using the prop engines.
Yeah.
So you'd have 2 prop engines going instead of jet engines, but the plane clearly is a jet plane.
Yeah.
But it has the prop engine sound, and you'll hear it like throughout the movie. You'll hear the way it's flying, and you're listening to it. You can hear the prop engines going through the background through the whole thing.
Wow. I'm about to watch it again.
When you really catch it's when they start up the engines. You're like, that's great.
Yeah. Yeah. I never thought about that. So how did Char go ahead?
No, go ahead.
How did your son? How did he take it? Did he catch
loved it. Now, there were things that I had to pause and tell him. He's like, hey, did you catch it? He goes, no. Or he'd be like, what does that mean? I had to explain what speaking in jive meant to him.
I love that scene.
So yeah. So and that's the scene with Barbara Billingsley, who was the mom on Leave It to Beaver, and the 2 African American guys are speaking jive. Which, for anybody that doesn't know, jive was kind of the ghetto speak of the day. It's what people would say that they had their own language that they could speak, and it's done
It was
in
like a
such a
trend.
way. It was. And when you watch the movie, they give little captions on what's being said, which is absolutely hysterical. And so then the stewardess can't understand what they're saying. And so Barbara Billingsley, this dear, precious, who is the mother of Leave It to Beaver, probably somebody's grandma, comes up and like, oh, well, I speak jive. And then she starts just right
Just
there
hang
with
loose,
them.
blood. We're going to get back on medicine. Oh, yeah.
My gosh, that part is so funny just because you're like, okay, that's humorous when you go with that.
Yeah.
The humor of Joyce Bulfant, who's the guitar playing stewardess, goes back there and she's singing the song, and then she grabs, the guitar hits the medicine and the child dying. Oh my gosh, yeah.
Oh, it's so good.
And of course you have the great basketball star Kareem Abdul-Jabbar in this movie.
Yep.
As Roger Murdoch.
Roger.
That's a Roger. What? What's your Victor?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They wanted Pete Rose for that part, and I don't know
really?
what happened. Yeah.
That would have been hysterical. It would have been Pete Rose too.
I know.
But that scene with Kareem Abdul-Jabbar talking to the kids, like, hey, you're Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. No, I'm not. I'm Roger Murdoch. It's like, no, my father and I, we have tickets. We come and see you play. I think you're the greatest, but my dad says that you're just lazy and won't run up and down the court. Listen, kid, your father had to run up and down the court with
Lamb beer and
yeah.
Walton.
Like
he tried dragging Walton and Lambeer up the court.
Up down the court. So funny. So I had to explain to my son who Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was, right?
Yeah.
He's not a big basketball fan, so I'm like, okay. At the time, was the number one scorer of all time. He was a legend for the Lakers. As a Larry Bird Celtics fan, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, he was one of the bad guys. But but he was always amazing. So, so that scene with Kareem is just funny. All three of the pilots in there are absolutely hysterical.
And then the plane when it goes into when it starts going down. He's in his basketball uniform.
right. Exactly. He's in his basketball. Exactly. Of course you have the not so appropriate for all family members airing up Otto, the autopilot.
Yeah.
My son was like, oh, I'm like, okay, son, calm down.
Yeah. Did he get it? Did he understand?
He got it. Like, all right.
I think even 12 or 13, I got it, which was weird.
Yep.
But I mean, it's not one of those movies that you have to pay attention to. But if you do, you catch on many more of the humors.
Oh, there's so much. It's just loaded with comical things in there. Even that a reference to one of the coffee commercials where they bring the coffee out to the stewardess. The steward bring out the coffee to the lady, and she's thinking in her head, "Oh, this is good coffee, just like what I make at home or whatever." And then her husband asks for coffee, and he goes, "Oh, he doesn't take coffee at home. I wonder if I need to switch up to." I'm just like, oh my god. I remember that commercial. That's what
I was going to ask you about that commercial reference because somebody told me it was, but I'd never seen it. I didn't remember it.
Yeah. There's an old coffee commercial where I think they're a couple kind of like that. They're out at a diner or something, and the husband asks for coffee, and she's thinking, oh. And so she asks the waitress what kind of coffee it is because her husband doesn't like her coffee at home.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Folgers or something. Right. So anyway.
So have you seen the sequel?
I have seen the sequel. It's good. It's not as good as the first one,
Right.
but the sequel's funny. Going to outer
Yeah.
space and all of that. I mean, yeah.
William Shatner.
William Shatner, which is
Yeah.
reprising his role from the Twilight Zone episode.
Oh, was it? Okay.
Because he was on the Twilight Zone before he did Star Trek, I believe, or it may have been
Oh,
during
wow.
the same time, where he's the passenger on the plane that looks out, the nervous passenger who looks out and sees the gremlin on the wing destroying part of the engine and the wing and starts
Okay.
freaking out. So yeah,
Wow.
that was William Shatner's role back in that. So he spoofs himself in Airplane 2. And then in the Twilight Zone movie that came out in the 80s, they did that again. So
Okay.
yeah. But yeah, that's just it's on the wing.
And he's the perfect serious type actor to do that role too.
He is.
So the Zucker, the famous directing writing combo, whatever you want to call it, Jeffrey Zucker, Jim Abrams,
Yep.
and what the other Zucker. So they did not. They didn't want to do the sequel. They didn't do it. It was somebody else.
I can see that.
I think they wanted to preserve their movie as a standalone.
Right. It didn't
Yeah.
need a sequel, but I don't know how much money it made, but yeah, it.
Yeah.
Speaking of, the how it is thought of and beloved, IMDb has it as a 7.7 out of 10, which is a little lower than I expected.
Yeah.
But Rotten Tomatoes has it as with the critics has it as a 97%.
Wow.
Which is crazy to think about what critics approve of, right?
Yeah.
The popcorn meter, which is the fans, is 89%. So, which is about right. I can see that. But yeah, it's just funny that you're like, wow, the critics like this one, which is absolutely funny because you think of Siskel and Ebert never liking anything that I liked. And so.
Or the people who write magazine articles that want to feel like drama is the only way to go.
Right. I'm super important here.
Yeah.
But yeah, it.
So before you wrap up, I want to say something, Seth.
You bet.
Okay, so this is with the previous time we did Buckaroo Banzai.
Yep.
There's one actor that's in both. There's a duplicate actor. So it's Jonathan Banks.
Jonathan Banks, yeah.
If you'd ever seen Breaking Bad, he's Mike in Breaking Bad.
Yep.
Yeah, I thought that was funny when I saw him in it. I was like, whoa.
He was in a lot of movies there. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting now.
I forgot he was in Buckaroo Banzai. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Yep.
You got to catch him quick because he's in the air traffic control tower. But yeah, he's there.
Speaking of the air traffic control tower, my favorite character on all of this movie is actually the guy, the air traffic controller, who's blatantly gay. And I forget his character's name, but Johnny. Oh my gosh, I just think Johnny's hysterical. I always laugh at Johnny, and I love when he hands him the paper. Tell me, what do you make of this, Johnny? Well, I can make a hat, I can make a brooch, I can make a pterodactyl.
How about some coffee, Johnny? No, thanks.
And then at the end, the lights go out as they're trying to land the plane. Oops.
Oh yeah, that's right. You unplug the lights. Oh yeah.
Oh my gosh, that character right there, I just roll every time. It's like, oh, more Johnny time, yes.
Yeah. And I thought, was that a reference to something? I mean, I didn't.
I don't think so. I don't think it was.
Now,
the whole movie is a spoof and reference of the late 1970s airport movies. There were 3 of them that were about airplane disasters. And so they were high drama. I remember my parents watching one of them on a Sunday night movie or whatever. But I just remember it was high drama. But then Airplane came out to spoof it all, and that's what they did. So yeah,
I didn't know there were 3 of the
I believe. Well, let me look for sure. I know at least 2, but I think there's 3.
No, I believe you. So that was another question. Have you seen any of them?
I was wrong. There are actually 4 of them.
Wow.
Airport 1975, Airport 77, and Airport 79. I've seen Airport 77.
Is it good?
Well, I saw it when I was a kid, so I thought it was kind of boring. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure they're good. I'd have to go back and rewatch them to kind of get a feel for it. But yeah, it's a whole series of disaster movies. You know, that's you get your type of disaster movies going on. You have the Towering Inferno around that same time frame. Okay. You've got what's the boat one? The capsizing of the big boat. What's the god of the ocean? Poseidon. The Poseidon Adventure.
Okay. Yeah.
So you've got all of those disaster movies that were happening at that time in the 70s. Probably because we felt like we were out of control with gas prices and the economy.
Yeah, I'm sure.
And then Airplane comes along and spoofs it. And everybody remembers Airplane. Not very many people remember the airport movies unless they were just a certain age at that point.
Which is crazy because I think the first one made a ton of money, right?
Yeah, I believe so. I believe it did. Which is why they kept going back to the cash cow there.
Yeah.
How much did it make here? See if it tells me.
Airport.
It made it grossed $105 million.
Dang, that's a lot.
And in the United States, Canada, and then an additional $27.9 million. So it made over 130 for worldwide.
Wow.
Or 128. I'm sorry, I miscalculated. 128 worldwide, which again was a big amount for a movie back in the day.
Yeah.
But it's funny that this one would be your top grossing one. And Airplane way outgrossed it. Spoofing it.
Yeah, I gotta wonder if the director of Airport, I'm sure he was proud of it, but is he upset at what Airplane did, or did he have a good sense of humor about it?
Great question. Yeah, I don't even know who directed it. We'd have to
look. Directors take it personally. This is my piece of
art.
Well,
they do. You know? Oh, right. It's their baby. Yeah. Directed by George Seaton. Seaton. I've heard of him. Oh, come on. So let's see if he said anything, because that is a great question. Did he have any comments about Airplane?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. Do you remember our generation's disaster time frame?
The exploding of the space shuttle?
Yeah. No, I mean, like when disaster movies were a big part of that.
Oh yeah. Oh, that you meant a real disaster. I'm like, well,
no.
We've had some, but
yeah. I doubt they'll ever do a movie about that one too.
Never know. I don't remember what big disaster movies there were. I mean, 90s had some, but I don't remember any from the 80s. I mean, you got your Volcano and Dante's Peak.
Yeah.
Going on. You've got your Armageddon and the Comet one happening. Deep Impact.
Yeah.
Those were disaster movies, but they were, a little different level. But I don't remember really any from the 80s big time disaster movies.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Yeah.
Except for maybe The Last Day, which was TV.
Oh my gosh, though, but that one, that's all you need, right?
I heard it was crazy. I heard it made people paranoid.
Did you never watched it?
No, well, actually, I saw it in grade school. But
yeah, right. That's when it would have been on. Yeah.
Yeah. But it was at school. They showed it to us at school.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I remember going at home to watch the mini series and being freaked out by it.
Yeah.
Which actually they've said that some of the things that got the nuclear disarmament really jump-started for President Reagan was that movie. That movie really had an impact on him.
Wow.
So people don't know there's a 2 or 3 day mini-series per thing on television where they would show basically a long kind of movie format that would happen over 2 or 3 nights, and you would get the whole thing. And this was about the day after a nuclear holocaust happens. What happens when the U.S. and Russia fire missiles at each other, and the devastation that people go through dealing with radiation, and this whole city's gone. They blew away this whole city, and you had family there or whatever. I just remember the one family I was kind of invested in that died of radiation poisoning.
Yeah.
They lived through the explosions. They were doing this, and all of a sudden they started getting things on their skin, and the whole family died. And I went, oh.
Yeah, that probably wasn't great for society to say, hey, let's get everybody freaked out.
But we were already under the we're all going to die in a nuke sort of mindset anyway.
Yeah,
and I know that really did affect our generation, because a lot of times we were like, what do we care? We're going to be dead before we're 30 because the U.S. and Russia are going to blow us up. So so it really some people are like, whoa, why didn't you plan better for your retirement? Are you kidding? Did you watch the day after? Because we were kind of supposed to be dead.
Oh yeah, the day after. Okay, what did I call it? The last day.
Yeah.
The
day after. That's what it was. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm curious. I'm curious if you could still rent that on streaming.
I bet you can somewhere.
Probably.
I went out and on Amazon bought the original V the miniseries and V the Final Battle miniseries a couple years ago.
So cool, yeah.
Just because I'm like, I love this as a kid. And so I went and found it and bought it and rewatched it. And it was actually still really good. I'm like, wow.
That's everybody talked about that. I remember seeing it, freaked me out a little bit, but I was totally into it.
The ripping the skin off the face and it's the lizard skin underneath. Boy, we're so far away from Airplane at the moment. But and speaking of TV miniseries during the 80s, and we'll take this and we'll move back to Airplane. I did see that one of the great miniseries actors passed away over the weekend.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it. Oh my gosh! Now my brain just decided to.
How old was she? Older? Or?
No, he. Hold on, let me find it. Let me find it, because I'm like, oh wow, there we go. That's great. Oh, Richard Chamberlain. That's right. Richard Chamberlain from both from Thornbirds and from Shogun passed away.
Yeah, that's right.
So he passed away over the weekend. Speaking of TV miniseries, so I just wanted to mention that since we're doing kind of this thing. Also, a well-known movie actor, was in a lot of different things, including King Solomon's Mines, where he was Alan. What's his name? Alan Quartermain, who is a literary character. Alan Quartermain is a literary character similar to Indiana Jones. Some people think Indiana Jones was borrowed a lot from Alan Quartermain.
Okay, cool.
So people were like, oh, look, he copied off of Indiana Jones. Well, sort of. It tried to go off of his fame, but anyway. But yes. Richard Chamberlain passed away, sadly. So, but
rest in peace.
Yep, rest in peace, indeed. Any last words you want to have about Airplane before we wrap this up?
I think it's should be on everybody's watch list if you haven't seen it. I think it should be in everybody's top 10 movies of all time.
Yeah,
if you don't like Airplane, then I don't know what's wrong with you. That's all I got.
There are people that don't like slapstick and that kind of humor and don't get it. And for them, it's not the movie for you. But for the rest of us, it is a belly laugh after a belly laugh after a belly laugh.
Yep.
I'm trying to think if there's anything else I wanted to say about it. It's worth watching. If you've not seen it and you like humor, definitely go check out Airplane. You can rent that pretty easily out there. I've got it on Fandango, so I went and pulled it up, and because I bought it a few years ago when it was Vudu. Vudu was having sales of old movies for like $5. I'm like, oh yeah, I'll take Airplane. Yeah, I'll do that.
Is that what happened to Vudu?
Voodoo became Fandango. So yeah.
Okay, I like Vudu.
So it's still around. If you go out to voodoo.com, it'll just take you to Fandango, and it'll say something about Voodoo powered by Fandango or whatever. But yeah.
Okay, cool.
But yeah. All right. Well, tell me, what grade do you give the movie, Joe? What do you give Airplane here?
A+.
A+. I'm with you. I'll give it an A+ also. It's always worth a really good laugh. So, yeah. And, if you don't like it, maybe you've got a drinking problem.
Amen.
That is another great psychiatric. I've got a drinking problem, and he takes his water and hits himself in the head, pours it to the side, and he can't find his mouth with it. It's a drinking problem. That's
my gosh.
So literally a drinking problem.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, we will wrap it up here, and we plan on being back next week for another episode. We'll let you know out there on Facebook and all those things what we're going to be talking about. But check us out next Tuesday, 6:30, same bat time, same bat channel.
It's Larry's pick.
All right. Boy.
Oh yeah.
We'll see if we can find something we've not done yet.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good idea.
So, all right. We'll see you all later. Stay geeky and watch the movies.